Daniel Thompson, a decorated black police officer, was preparing to board a flight Tuesday morning to attend an important conference on police community relations. He handed his boarding pass to the flight attendant, but her eyes narrowed as she examined him more closely than necessary. Daniel immediately sensed the tension and felt the weight of her gaze. Passengers behind him began to move impatiently, and finally the flight attendant shook her head and said there was a problem with his ticket. Daniel frowned, not believing what he was hearing. Confusion turned to disbelief as he realized what was happening. This wasn't just a mistake, it seemed personal to the flight attendant in front of him. He was just a black man, but police officer Daniel Thompson made a difference in the world. One of his most notable achievements is his work with at-risk youth. He started a mentoring program that pairs young people with police officers, providing guidance and support. The program has had a profound impact, reducing juvenile crime rates and promoting trust between youth and police. Daniel's efforts did not go unnoticed. At a recent awards ceremony, Daniel stood proudly as the mayor praised his contributions. The room was filled with his colleagues, community members, and his proud parents. The mayor spoke of Daniel's tirelessness, his courage and compassion. Daniel received a medal for his service. A symbol of his dedication to making the world a better place. In contrast to Daniel's life, Sarah's is a whirlwind of stress and responsibility. As a flight attendant, she had to juggle long hours with difficult passengers under constant pressure to maintain a perfect image. Sarah is known for her diligence and professionalism, always ensuring that everything runs smoothly on her flights. But underneath that exterior, she was struggling. Sarah recently went through a painful divorce, which took a huge emotional toll and left her feeling isolated and overwhelmed. She also faces financial stress every month, trying to manage bills while supporting her aging parents. The stress in her personal life was affecting her work, making her more irritable and less patient than usual. Still, Sarah is proud of her work. She enjoys the feeling of control that comes with knowing that she is responsible for the safety and comfort of her passengers. But the burden of personal problems made it difficult for her to concentrate. She often rethinks her decisions and worries about the things she cannot change. The day of the incident with Daniel, Sarah was dealing with some difficult passengers. She was tired and frustrated, her nerves were tense. When she saw Daniel, something inside her exploded. She didn't recognize him as a decorated officer or a community hero. All she saw was a potential problem, another source of stress in her already chaotic day. Daniel was unaware of Sarah's difficulties. He only felt the pain of being scrutinized by her. He had faced discrimination before, and as a black man in a predominantly white profession, he knew he had to work twice as hard to prove self. He has earned his position through hard work and dedication, but moments like these remind him that prejudice is still very prevalent. Sarah's decision to refuse to let Daniel board the plane is not just a violation of the law but a culmination of her stress, personal bias, and helplessness. Daniel leaves, feeling humiliated and confused. Sarah remained at the gate, completely unaware of the storm she had just experienced. Their paths, shaped by different experiences and struggles, are about to intersect in a way that will change both of their lives forever. Daniel knew he had to handle this carefully. Losing your temper will only make things worse. Okay, I'll talk to security, he told himself as he walked away. He could hear whispers and see judgmental looks from other passengers. He felt a wave of anger and helplessness. This is not just about a ticket but about the underlying prejudices that still exist, the assumptions people make based on the color of his skin. At the security counter, Daniel explained the situation to a guard. The guard looked at Daniel's boarding pass and frowned. "There's no problem with this ticket," he said, confused. "There's nothing wrong with it." Daniel felt a wave of relief. He asked the guard to tell the flight attendant that he couldn't miss the flight. The guard nodded and picked up the phone, speaking briefly to someone on the other end. After a moment, he hung up and motioned for Daniel to follow him back to the gate. As they approached, Daniel saw Sarah standing there with her arms crossed. The guard gave her her boarding pass. "There are no security issues with this ticket," he said. "You should let him get on the plane." Sarah glanced quickly at her boarding pass and then back to Daniel. She said she wasn't comfortable letting him get on the flight, that he had to take the next one. The guard looked unconvinced. "It's not up to you. If his ticket is valid, he has the right to board the plane." Sarah's face turned red with discomfort. She said she had the right to refuse boarding if she felt there was a potential threat, and that was her decision. Daniel's frustration boiled over. On what basis is the potential threat? This is absurd. Passengers were openly looking at their phones, recording them, and Daniel felt humiliated. He took a deep breath and tried to stay calm as he turned around and walked away. His heart pounded with anger and humiliation. He always prided himself on his ability to handle difficult situations with calm, but this definitely felt like a personal attack. He could hear the whispers of the crowd and see the judgment in their eyes. Outside the gate, Daniel found a quiet corner and pulled out his phone. He called his supervisor and explained the situation. "Calm down, Daniel. We'll figure this out," his supervisor said. After leaving the airport, Daniel immediately filed a formal complaint with the airline. He recounted every detail of the incident and made sure to include how he felt unfairly surveilled and humiliated. He filed a complaint with the airline's customer service department and waited. The airline's management team takes complaints seriously. Within hours, an internal investigation was launched. The investigation team reviewed security footage, conversations recorded at the gate and documents related to Daniel's ticket. They need to understand what went wrong and why. Sarah's manager, Linda, is called in to discuss the situation. She sat across from Sarah in a small, sterile office, Linda's expression stern, her frustration clear. "Please explain yourself," Linda demanded. Sarah shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "I think I saw a security alert on his ticket. With everything that's happened, I don't want to take any chances." Linda leaned forward, her eyes narrowed. "The records don't show any security alerts. No other passengers on that flight had any problems. Why are you criticizing Daniel?" Sarah's mind raced. She searched for an explanation that would justify her actions. "I was just trying to follow protocol to ensure everyone's safety." "People," Linda sighed and rubbed her temples. "There are protocols for a reason, Sarah, but they should be based on facts, not assumptions or personal biases. Kicking a man off a plane just because of the color of his skin reports signaling danger is certainly a bias." Linda goes on to tell Sarah that Daniel isn't even a random black man but a respected police officer attending a conference on police community relations. Sarah's face paled as Linda's words sank in. "I didn't realize. I was under a lot of stress and I thought I was doing the right thing," Sarah stammered. Linda shook her head. "Tension is never an excuse for discrimination. This incident has attracted a lot of attention and made this airline look very bad." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she began to understand the severity of her mistake. "I didn't think it through. I just saw him and felt uncomfortable. It didn't make sense." Linda's expression softened slightly but her tone remained firm. "This is a serious matter, Sarah, and it must be properly addressed." Sarah nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks, feeling a wave of regret and shame. She let her personal problems cloud her judgment and now she must face the consequences. Meanwhile, Daniel received a call from the airline's customer service department. An internal investigation is underway and they have taken your complaint very seriously. They assured him that appropriate actions would be taken to resolve the issue and prevent such incidents in the future. Daniel felt a little relieved knowing that his voice had been heard. However, the incident still haunts his mind. He couldn't escape the feeling of being judged and criticized because of his race. He hopes that the investigation will lead to real change, not just for himself but for everyone who has faced similar discrimination. News of the incident between the flight attendant and the rejected black man spread quickly. A passenger recorded the confrontation and posted the video to social media. Within hours, the video went viral. The hashtag Justice for Daniel began trending. Thousands of people have expressed outrage at the blatant discrimination. Daniel's phone kept buzzing with supportive messages from friends, family, and even strangers. Major news outlets covered this story, interviewing Daniel and highlighting his commendable work in the community. He became a symbol of perseverance and integrity, someone who stood up against prejudice and injustice. His calm demeanor throughout the incident only increased the respect everyone had for him. The airline's management faced backlash. Their public relations team attempted to release statements, but despite their efforts, their reputation was significantly damaged. They have lost public trust. Sarah's life also begins to fall apart. Her name and face appeared all over the internet and she became the target of widespread criticism. Those who once admired her professionalism now see her as a symbol of intolerance and prejudice. Her inbox was flooded with hateful and threatening messages, and her social media accounts were bombarded with harsh comments. Sarah's stress and guilt increase as she realizes the severity of her actions. She couldn't go anywhere without feeling the weight of people's judgment. Her friends and colleagues shunned her, not knowing how to support her. Even her family, who always stood by her, struggled to understand why she acted the way she did. Sarah is on indefinite leave pending the outcome of the investigation. Without being distracted by work, she has more time to reflect on her actions and the consequences they cause. Every headline, every angry message was like a knife stabbing into her heart. She made a terrible mistake and now she has to pay the price. Her mental health became increasingly weak. She had trouble sleeping, and nightmares about the incident kept haunting her. She stopped going out because she was afraid of facing the public. Her world became as small as a confined space, where she was constantly reminded of her failures. One evening, as she scrolled through countless messages on her phone, Sarah came across a post from Daniel. He shared a story about his experiences with discrimination and how they shaped his determination to bring about positive change. His words were powerful and inspiring, but they also filled Sarah with a sense of regret. She realized that her actions not only hurt Daniel, but also reinforced the very stereotypes he was fighting against. She knew she needed to do something to make up for her mistakes, but she felt lost and didn't know where to start. The mountain of consequences seems insurmountable. As the media frenzy continues, Daniel remains focused on his mission. He has used his newfound platform to advocate for systemic changes in the aviation industry and beyond. He spoke at community events and shared his story. His resilience and composure under pressure inspired many. Sarah watched from the sidelines. Maybe there's a way to turn my mistake into something positive. She started thinking about how she could contribute to this cause and make a difference in atonement for her actions. The road ahead is long, but she is determined to take the first step. As the investigation nears its conclusion, Daniel and Sarah's intertwined fates continue to unfold, leading them toward an uncertain but hopeful future. Over the weeks as the investigation continued, Sarah's isolation deepened. She spent most of her time at home. One evening she decided to join a support group for people dealing with stress and anxiety. She needed to talk to someone to find a way to deal with her overwhelming feelings of guilt. At the support group, Sarah hesitantly shared her story. She did not mention names or specifics. She spoke about the incident she regrets and how it turned her life upside down. After the class, a middle-aged woman approached her. "Your story really touched me," the woman said. "My name is Karen and my son was involved in a police operation a few years ago. It changed our lives." Sarah listened curiously and was a little distracted by her own thoughts. "What happened?" she asked. Karen said, "My son, Eric, was kidnapped by a bad mob one night. Things got out of hand and he was taken hostage by a gang. The police launched an operation, rescue, and a special officer who wholeheartedly saved it. His name is Daniel Thompson." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Daniel Thompson," the woman continued. "That's right. Officer Thompson risked his life to save my son. Without him, Eric wouldn't be here today. Daniel stayed with Eric until the paramedics arrived, talked to him, kept him calm. It was unbelievable." Sarah's mind raced. She felt a deep sense of guilt and regret flood her mind. The man she treated so poorly was the one who saved a young man's life. She felt as if the ground had been pulled out from under her feet. How could she treat him so unfairly? The burden of her actions weighed heavily on her. She needs to apologize to him. She needs to find a way to make a man. The next day, Sarah contacted Karen, explaining everything she had learned and how she had wronged Daniel. Karen is shocked but supportive. "You need to talk to him," she said. "Daniel is a good man. He will understand." With Karen's help, Sarah managed to get Daniel's contact information. She wrote a heartfelt email in which she explained who she was, their connection, and expressed her deepest apologies for her actions. She poured her heart out into every word, hoping that Daniel would understand her remorse and sincerity. Daniel received the email while he was in the middle of a community meeting. When he saw Sarah's name, his first reaction was anger. But as he read her words, his anger gradually turned into surprise. He remembered the night he saved Eric, the relief on the young man's face engraved in his memory. Daniel understands that everyone makes mistakes and he always believes in second chances. Sarah's apology seemed sincere. He could feel her deep regret. After a few days of contemplation, Daniel decided to meet her. He wanted to hear her side of the story, to understand what motivated her actions and to see if they could find a way forward. The meeting was arranged at a local coffee shop, a neutral location where they could talk openly. When they met, Sarah was clearly nervous. Daniel greeted her with a calm demeanor. They sat down and she took a deep breath before speaking. "Daniel, I am so sorry for what I did. I let personal issues and prejudice cloud my judgment. I know I cannot undo the harm I caused, but I want to do it right," she said. Daniel listened attentively. He thanks her for the apology, then he tells her the only thing that matters now is how they move forward and what they can do to stop this from happening to anyone else. Sarah nodded. This felt like hope. This meeting is the beginning of a new chapter where they can work together to make a difference. Daniel leaned forward. "Join me in my outreach programs," he said. "Help educate people about the importance of diversity and inclusion. Use your experiences to show others how stereotypes can blind us and how we can overcome it." Sarah accepted immediately. She wants to make a difference, turn this mistake into something good. Daniel smiled. He tells her it won't be easy, but says he believes she can rise to the challenge. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she nodded her thanks to Daniel. "Thank you for giving me this opportunity." In that moment, they both felt saved. The road ahead will be difficult, but they are ready to face it together, united in their mission to bring about change and understanding. As Daniel and Sarah worked together, a sincere friendship developed. They have seen firsthand the positive impact they make, from reducing prejudice to fostering stronger community ties. Incidents that were once a source of suffering and conflict have turned into powerful catalysts for change. During a community event, Sarah and Daniel stood together, surrounded by people from all walks of life, united in their commitment to understanding and empathy. Their story is all about the power of second chances and the enduring strength of the human spirit. They used that to change the world, one person at a time. Despite initial conflict, Daniel and Sarah's collaboration led to many initiatives aimed at solving systemic problems. They have developed training programs for airline employees, focusing on diversity, inclusion, and recognizing unconscious biases. These programs are designed to prevent incidents like they experienced and create a more inclusive environment for everyone. Daniel shared his experiences of discrimination during police training, detailing the countless humiliations he endured. He recalls how he was underestimated, closely monitored, and often treated unfairly simply because of his race. These memories came flooding back when Sarah refused to let him board the plane. Adding to his feelings of anger and helplessness, there is one memory in particular that stands out vividly from his first year at the police academy. Daniel is the only black student in his class. The training is rigorous, but Daniel is determined to prove himself. Despite his efforts, he often felt isolated. His fellow students sometimes made unintentional comments about his race, joking that he was only there to fill a quota. The instructors, although more refined, are no less biased. They scrutinized his every move, waiting for him to make a mistake. One particular incident left a lasting scar. During the high-stress simulation, Daniel performed very well, but the instructor publicly berated him, accusing him of endangering his team. The criticism was baseless and harsher than anything his white friends received. On that day, Daniel felt the full weight of his skin color. It was a humiliating experience that fueled his determination to succeed against all odds. Sharing these stories is painful, but it is necessary because it helps others understand the deep prejudices that still exist in society. Sarah listened attentively, her heart aching with guilt for adding to his burden. She realizes that her actions were not only unjust but also evoked painful memories for Daniel. As part of their outreach efforts, they organized community dialogues where people could share their experiences with discrimination and learn from each other. These events are powerful, promoting empathy and understanding among participants. Sarah often talks about her own biases and the incident with Daniel, viewing it as a lesson in humility and maturity. Her openness and willingness to learn helped others see that change is possible even for people who have made serious mistakes together. They also advocate for policy changes in the aviation industry. They pushed for mandatory diversity training for all airline employees and implemented clearer guidelines to prevent discrimination. Their efforts were initially met with opposition, but their support paid off. Over time, the airline industry began to adopt their recommendations, leading to a more inclusive environment for both employees and passengers. Through their work, Daniel and Sarah became close friends. They supported each other through challenges and celebrated successes together. Daniel continues to mentor at-risk youth, often inviting Sarah to speak to them about the importance of empathy and understanding. Her story of redemption resonated with many young people, showing them that it is possible to overcome past mistakes and make a positive impact. As they reflect on their journey, both Daniel and Sarah know there is still more work to do. But they were committed to their mission, driven by the belief that real change was possible. Their story, once a source of suffering and conflict, has become a beacon of hope and inspiration. Years later, at an event celebrating their outreach program, Daniel and Sarah stood on stage speaking to a crowd of hundreds. The audience is a diverse mix of people, all united in their commitment to understanding and empathy. Daniel spoke about the importance of resilience and the power of second chances. Sarah shared her journey of growth and redemption, highlighting the impact of their work. "We've come a long way," Daniel said, his voice strong and steady. "But our journey is far from over. Together, we can continue to make a difference. We can create a world where everyone is judged on their merits, not the color of their skin." The crowd erupted in applause and Daniel looked at Sarah. She smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude and determination. They have turned their pain into a powerful force for good, and they are ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead together. If you love engaging and true stories about life, click the subscribe button now to not miss any videos. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to receive the latest information from us. Thank you for your support and companionship.